I honestly don't even think that I'm that good at goalie. I think that I'm just so good at playing the game that I've been able to BS my way into the NHL for like 10 years.
Let's talk to one of the best goaltenders on the planet from the Buffalo Sabres, Alex Lyon. Hello, why are you laughing?
I mean, I don't think I'll ever put myself there. I'm just trying to keep a job in the league, to be honest with you. But yeah, things have been good lately, so I can't complain.
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Speaking of numbers, we've learned that someone has been viewing our stuff, and not to make it about us, but you said that you're like getting into the What Chaos experience this season, and your exact words were, I believe, like, I wasn't sure. What does that mean?
Well, I'm a big sports talk guy. Like, so I love religious Bill Simmons listener, like Colin Cowherd, Mike Florio. I don't know if you guys follow any football stuff, but
Oh, yeah.
I love pro football talk. I love those guys. I've listened to them for like 10 years. And just like recently, I've been able to get into hockey because my brain isn't mentally strong enough to handle hockey talk along with my job, if that makes sense. But the last like couple of years, I've been getting a little dabbling more in the hockey, and yeah, I've been loving all chaos ever since. I think Tomer was on it earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Not
Um,
us.
or he
That might
got
have been the
Kesselring was on earlier this year.
Yep, Kesselring. Who else? Who you would
You know what it
know?
was? I think Tomer has a What Chaos hat that he wears like
Oh,
every single while.
yes,
He
You guys
does.
yes.
might have sent him some stuff or something like that.
It's the
Um,
only time. It's the only time he doesn't. I was going to make a MAGA hat joke. I'm not going to do it. We can move on. But yeah, he has a What Chaos hat, which is the a hat that he wears, and everyone says, "Okay, we like this. No one's mad."
so the free advertising is working for you guys. Whatever you're doing, you're getting the word out there, and yeah, it turned me on. But I love it. I think that I'm sure, as you guys have thought about this a million times, but there's a big hole in the hockey media market for just like good banter, kind of like hitting on a bunch of different topics. Like I said, like I'm a Bill Simmons guy, and so I love listening to him talk about NBA, NFL, and I feel like the NHL is starting to kind of come around to that a little bit, and I'm loving it. So
I absolutely get where you're coming from. Where you're like, I mean, if I was an athlete, I certainly wouldn't listen to most sports media, but I definitely wouldn't listen to sports media from like the sport that I covered because the takes would drive me insane. I can only imagine if you've listened to stuff and you've disagreed with it, you've been like, you idiots, you morons. But that's like what sports media is all about.
right, like that. Once you can get past it, it took me a long time to be able to separate like taking things personal, and once I just could like emotionally get past that. I mean, I think everybody's like that with their own personal life, right? You just learn to like not care about certain things. And honestly, like whenever there's a segment about whatever X team I'm happening to play for that year, I just like 30 seconds until I get ahead of it. But yeah, I
Well,
love it. Now I kind of like know what's going on around the league a little bit more. Like I said, I listened to your Vegas Golden Knights synopsis earlier today, and I enjoyed that. And so it's good to just kind of have a feel for what's going on around the league.
You've done a lot of skipping on this show this year
Right.
because we've talked about the Sabres basically every day for the last 3 months. But it's all been good because it's been unbelievable out there.
Yeah, it's been great, and I honestly do skip, but I'm also kind of in the sports media game for not to just hammer your podcast name too much, but I'm in it for the chaos. You know, like I'm not in it. I'm not listening to like Colin Cowherd to give a fluff take in whatever. I want to hear some. I'm sure like you guys, right? When you listen to things, you want to hear things that are a little bit more spicy. So you definitely know Buffalo Sabres content for me. Try to stay away from that as much as I can, but. Yeah, it feels like it's been a crazy season in the NHL. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it just feels like there's kind of been a lot going on.
With all due respect, the Buffalo Sabres are about to, and earmuffs, like tap dance their way to a Stanley Cup. So yes, it's been a crazy year in the NHL because it's been, I mean, I remember months ago, Alex, on this show, our producer, Sean, who loves you guys, being like, so it's going to be 15 years. It's going to be 15 years, and there's nothing I can do about that, and that just hurts so much, but I guess this is my life. And fast forward to now, we have you on, and I need to know, how much beer do you guys drink?
Well, honestly, more now that Rasmus put that out into the atmosphere. Honestly, I think we try to have a few more now because of him. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even just like being around the league and in the league for this is my 10th year. It's crazy to think that the Sabres are going to have a chance to play in the playoffs. And obviously, we really don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. We still got 9 games to go, so I'm going to be pretty careful with what I say. But it's just like it's been such a long time, and it's almost like you just take it for granted that the position that certain teams are in, like in the league, and then when they kind of, it's like the same thing like Ottawa. I think about them a little bit last year. Like they finally cracked it last year and got in, and it's cool to see. I like when there's like teams that change kind of their status in the league, and I think that's pretty cool. I think it's good for the game.
It's been a lot of that in the Eastern Conference this year. The whole landscape seems to have shifted quite a bit. We know beer is kind of the savior of the Sabres this year. Have you guys considered getting into anything harder? I'm experimenting with gateway drugs recently.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I did listen to the podcast earlier, and maybe if we could, I don't know, maybe if we could get some sort of sponsorships, I think that the Sabres would be welcome and open to anything. That's as far as I'll go on the gateway drug, rabbit hole.
Further than I thought you would go.
A businessman looking to bring in dollars. You got to respect it.
Was there any part of you that thought you could, that A, this could have not all happened, and B, that you could have not been there for it? Because we'll forget the start of the season and everything, but like the team was struggling and you were playing well. And as a fan of a team that occasionally is on the hunt for goaltenders, your name was a name that was thrown around of like, if a team wants a goalie, good contract, good player, like maybe they're in on Alex Lyon. Around when the team started to get good and maybe around the time of the GM change, were you wondering or were you talking to your agent about like, hey, like, am I even going to be here?
Yeah, it's definitely it's always a factor. Even like when you're in the American League, which I spent the bulk of my career in the American League, you just like kind of never know, and it's really just goes with like the ebbs and flows of the season because there could be 4 NHL goalies that get sent down during training camp where you're like, holy, like I can't believe those guys all cleared, and then it's like really just a matter of need. That's kind of how I see it. And if like a team is in dire need, then you just never really know what's going to happen, as evidenced by some of the moves that we've seen this year. But it's always kind of in the back of your mind. Fortunately for me, my fiance and I don't spend the seasons together. She lives at home in close to New York City, in New York City. And so it's not as much of a really a concern for me as it is maybe with like guys with kids and families and stuff. But yeah, definitely always thinking about that. I remember, I don't know why this just popped in my head, but I remember one time, like my third year, it was one of my first call ups over the trade deadline, and I went to sleep, and then I had like 7 spam calls when I woke up from my nap. And I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, I can't believe I'm getting traded right now. I can't believe like this is what it feels like. And then you find out that it's like, oh, nobody cares about Alex Lyon. So you just move on. But it was like a good test
Just your
run for
car's
me,
extended warranty, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Been looking to get some insurance money off me, but yeah, it's always a factor, and it's just kind of part of it. You got to kind of bake it in with the experience.
How does this team compare to other teams you've been on just in terms of like vibes and energy? Because I mean, I'm going to ask you about the Sword in a couple of minutes, but I feel like every clip I see of you guys or whatever, like it's probably tough to not really be up when you're winning so much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it surprised me. Like, you could kind of feel the momentum shifting, and when you start to string a few wins together, to me, really, like, winning is the cure to everything. And you guys know that, but like, aside from just like the team vibe and everything, it's just like winning really is what makes everything happen in a locker room in terms of like how you feel and how the guys are vibing with each other. So we went on like a crazy run there, and we're still playing really good hockey, and the guys have been playing great. But like when we were rattling off, I think we had a 10 gamer, from the early December to like mid January. You could kind of start to feel the vibe start to shift a little bit. Um, but what's kind of interesting about our team is we still have like an incredibly young team. I think our um, second youngest team in the NHL behind like maybe Montreal. I don't know, after the trade deadline, we did add some age, but it's fun. It's fun. I get excited for the guys that have been here this whole time, and um, they're starting like you guys know what I'm saying, like Tage and Dolls, and like these guys have been putting us so much sweat equity into the Buffalo Sabres, and so really I'm thrilled for them, and I'm happy that they can have the team success along with the individual success that they've had for quite a while now. So, and it's not just those guys. I mean, go down the line like Samuelson, Luukkonen, Upi, obviously my goalie partner there. So I'm just really thrilled for those guys, and for me, it's my fifth team, so it's like kind of you kind of have different a bunch of different experiences, so you don't maybe necessarily get up and down quite so much, but it's been fun to like vicariously live through them for sure, and hopefully we can just keep grinding and keep the wave rolling.
Are you why they got rid of the sword?
I have heard that theory before. I actually would love to take credit for why that. I don't think that's in factuality why they got rid of the sword, but I would love to think that the hazard of me, unsheathing the sword and then swiftly and majestically, shooting it through the air is the actual reason that they did get rid of the sword. So if you guys want to perpetuate that rumor, I would really love that.
I mean,
Happily.
you looked amazing doing it. Like, it's not like you were like, oh, here goes that. It was very like, if there was a bad guy in there, I wouldn't have wanted to be a bad guy in there. Is what I'm saying, because you look like you
Yeah.
could have handled some business, killed
I
them.
couldn't I couldn't agree with you more. And the other huge thing for me was um, it was actually, I think, maybe like our third or fourth game of the season. And so I still had some, reasonable muscle definition on my body because obviously you work so hard in the summer, and then once the season starts, the shape of your body just gradually rolls downhill until the end of the season. And so like I still had actually pretty good definition. And so I'm pretty fired up that everybody thinks that, I'm not just a complete bag of milk, because in reality what I actually am. So yeah, pretty good look for me.
I can like that clip is seared into my brain. I can replay it whenever I want to. And you are right. You do have definition. You've got like the ripped undershirt, and I can see your face as you do like the stabbing motion. It literally is on replay in my brain. So I feel like that's gotta be the defining image of this Sabre season. When you think of this season, is there like a particular moment or like time frame where you saw things shift? Because for the rest of us, we were like, this is largely the same team. How have they managed to turn it around so quickly?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I really don't have the answer to that. I mean, we were on the Western Canada swing, 6 game Western Canada swing. We dropped the first three, and then we won the next three. And then when we got back, that's when we changed general managers. And so that doesn't really affect the day to day of the team. Um, that being said, like I think that it just happens sometimes where like things kind of click and fall into place, and it has a lot to do with confidence. But I kind of went through something a little similar with Florida 2 years ago, where they had won the President's Cup the year before, and then the whole season was really a grind, I think, for that group. And then things kind of fell into place, and I think that I was just like really lucky to be at the front end of it. But things fell into place. The team just started to like kind of understand the way that the coach wanted to play, and now you kind of see the results of that. Where it's like you watch a Florida game and it's like they dump the puck in every time, they retrieve it every time. They're heavy, they play hard, but they just kind of found their identity in the way that they needed to play to win a lot of games. And I think that we kind of have the same similar vibe going here, where we just are like, okay, if we do these X, Y, Z things, then it's going to give us a very good chance for success. Um, and and that's really like the only explanation I could give to you, other than just you know grinding in the first half of the season and then kind of things coming to fruition as well. But really nothing definitive, nothing that I can say. But we do have a very hardworking team, and that's one thing that I've kind of been impressed with on and off the ice. Is like early in the season, it was like, okay, we're putting in a lot of work and maybe the results really aren't coming, but it wasn't necessarily like, oh, it's a loose team in terms of work habits or anything like that. So, that could explain it a little bit as well.
How do you look at the circumstances of the Florida situation? Because I'm sure it would be very easy to be like, it should have been me, it could have been me, whatever. I personally think, like, because you didn't get lit up in that series at all. You played well against literally the best roster ever. The Panthers were always going to lose two of the first three games, or at least two of the first three games, and they were going to have to just change the goalie to get a spark anyway. But when you look at what, like, A, do you read that the same way? And B, like, what do you make of all the shit that's happened since?
Yeah. I think, well, it was kind of an interesting scenario because I was up there for a while, and Bob had played maybe like 3 weeks of straight games. Like I didn't get in at all. And then he got pretty like just a virus, like the 3 or 4 day sickness that hit him pretty bad. And so at that point for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to kind of have the keys to the castle here for a little bit. But I was very rested and was feeling really good and really motivated. It was in a contract year, so things were kind of just set up for me in the right way. And I went on like whatever that little 7, 8, 9 game stretch there. And that was really the first time I had like a taste of real success in the NHL. But then on the other flip side, Bob had gotten like a couple, whatever, 3 weeks of really good rest where he was just practicing every day. And that is one, I think, common characteristic I've seen with goalies over my career, is that when a goalie gets like a 2 or 3 week reprieve and the ability to like really hone in on their game, and then they get reinserted back into the lineup, it's usually a pretty good recipe. And that's kind of what shook out there in that scenario. Is Bob was just feeling so good and rested and healthy, and then he came back in and he went on an absolute tear, like the second round against Toronto, and then the conference final against the
Carolina.
Hurricane. Yeah, he was unbelievable. And like we in the Carolina, I mean, we went like one game went to like 5 overtimes, and he was elite the whole game. Uh, and I think that it's kind of like Vegas the year before, where they had to go to the and learn how to they lost in the Cup final the year before, and I think that was a really valuable experience for them as well. That just from me from the outside looking in. Um, and then so I think it really like taught the Panthers like, okay, this is the amount of like commitment, and me too. Like I learned a lot in that couple week stretch there, but it really taught them how much commitment it's going to take to win games all the way until July. And I think about that a lot now, but like you're playing hockey for 2.5 more months after your 82 regular season game is over. And the amount of like work and just like sweat equity it takes to go that far is like unbelievable. And it opened my eyes a lot as to like the commitment that it takes to achieve that. So um, I think that was good. And then the second year, the team, I think for them was a little bit different, but they were able to achieve it again. So no, I don't look back at all and think that it should have been me. I was kind of always there, knowing obviously that Bob was the man, and so I just appreciate the Panthers, and I was happy I got some more playing time in Detroit. That was kind of always my goal, was to get a little bit more playing time and get some more games, and then here I am now, and just happy to be with the Sabres and kind of see where things go.
You rule, dude. You're such a good guest. What was it like at the deadline when, like, I feel bad for Colton Parayko, but just that all got out there. But what was it like learning about that, and how did the team in the room, I guess, react to it?
Yeah, I think when you're at the trade deadline, it's I think from the outside looking in, it's easy to think that the team is even like really affected by those things. But when you're still playing, like I heard somebody actually say this year, but they said that there should be no games on trade deadline day, and I think that's kind of a popular opinion, which I think is actually kind of a good idea. But like, you don't really have time to worry about the deadline, and I'm sure from his end it was probably the same, where it's just like you still have to produce, and you're still stressed about the games, and playing games, like, you have to compete so hard every game, otherwise this league is going to humble you in like a really really serious way. So the team, we didn't really know maybe what to expect, just because we had been on such a good run that I think the team was like, all right, if we get some help, that's great, and we would appreciate that. But if we don't, we're not going to let it deter us at all. And so kind of obviously feel bad for him in the situation that he's put in, as a fellow player. That I think that kind of stinks. But I also understand that that's part of the game, and that's just the name of the game, is things like that are going to happen. So yeah, not really too much emotional swing one way or another. And then when we heard it wasn't going to happen, those other trades came pretty quickly with the Stanimal, and Carrick and Schenner has been great, and Tanner Pearson. They've all been great to have in the room. They're great guys, and they're all helping in their own way our team quite a bit. So just happy to have those guys, and hope Colton Parayko has a Hall of Fame 15 years more NHL career, and that's just keep it simple, I guess, in that way.
How weird is it to play on a team with three goaltenders? Like, is it an adjustment at all to not dress on games where you're not starting?
No, it's been good. For me, we had three goalies to start the year in Detroit both years.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're in the American League, like, there's times when you can have five goalies on your roster. So you're always like grinding for practice time. And like when I was in Chicago, we went through a bunch of goalies, and we always had three or four guys on the roster. So for me, that's like pretty normal. And like definitely at times you would like a bit more practice time, but there's also times where when you're playing a lot and you're rolling, that it's pretty nice to have that third guy. And obviously, as evidenced by the full-time e-bug coming in next year, I think that there seems to be a yearning and a desire to have kind of that extra body there to take some of the load off. But it's been great. I think that the biggest thing in the three goalie system is you need to have good personalities and the right type of guys. And fortunately, like UPL, myself and Colton, we all get along really well, and we're all very healthily competitive with each other, I guess is the best way to say it. We're like, I think we all want the net. I think we all want to stop pucks and win games, but not at the sacrifice of the team. I've said this a couple times this year, but I actually believe this. Like, I hope UPL wins every game the rest of the year, and then wins 16 straight, and we win a Stanley Cup. Like, nothing would make me happier or make my life better than that. So, or same thing with Colton, and I know that those guys would want that for me as well. So. that's kind of the way that I think about it. And honestly, that's the way that I've had to think about it just to survive kind of in this league, is making sacrifices like that. And so it's been fun. It's been an awesome year, and UPL and I have had a good thing going, and he's been incredible lately. And Colton also won massive games for us in November and December. So it's been a really fun group, and we're all just working really hard and are going to continue to do so. And so, yeah, we keep it simple in that department as well.
How much does UPL like pronouncing his own name?
It sounds amazing when he says it. I'm sure
does.
you guys have seen the clips. It sounds unreal. But yeah, he's just a sturdy, great guy. Finn, he's pretty quiet and kind of does his job and moves on. So he's been a great goalie partner for me.
Yeah, like half of our show is playing clips of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen saying Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Yeah,
he swings it when he says it.
I imagine him like Groot, where like all he says is his own name.
He's a Pokemon.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, like I actually, now that you say that, when I have heard that before, it kind of seems like that he like leans into it maybe a little too much. Like he's trying to like, I don't know how you just said it, but like he swings it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to ask him about that tomorrow and confront him about that.
You're going to make him quantize it a little bit. Just say Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. No, he's like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. He just wants to swing a little bit. I'll tell you what, I guarantee that guy has his outgoing message on his phone is the number you have reached is unavailable. Name cannot come to the phone. You know how like you can either one like, hey, you've reached Ukko, can't get like he does the just say your own name.
Yeah.
And the number you've reached is unavailable. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. We'll call you back after this. That guy lives for shit like that, I bet.
Yeah. Honestly, to be honest, he definitely doesn't. But just for the sake of the podcast, I'll roll with it. But
we're running long. We'll cut that down.
I'll send him a text after this. I'll give him a call and just say, hey, don't answer. We're just going to see what you're working with your voicemail. And then we'll adjust it. But I'm definitely going to see if he likes to lean into that or not, and maybe call him out a little bit for that tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we had Wyatt Johnson on, and we were just harassing him about his teammate Hintz, because that man has really fucked around with people over the years with saying his name is Ropa, Rope, Rupe, Rope. Brad Marchand did the same thing. He went Marchand for a little while, then he went Marchand, and we're like, we want to put respect on people's names.
Just pick one.
Stop fucking with us.
Yeah.
Hintz, I don't know that guy, so I don't know what he's doing. All respect to him. Marchand does it to fuck with people. I am sure, because that is just his thing. You wrote your senior thesis at Yale on global nuclear war. That fascinates me for a lot of reasons. Are you still like a nuke head?
Well, the dummy major at Yale is political science. So it
Classic
sounds
Yale dummy major.
Dummy major is crazy.
Yeah, like the athlete major is political science. So I was kind of strong-armed into doing that because I wasn't like smart enough. And I'm not even trying to be humble. I'm not even trying to humble brag here, because I'm very proud of the fact that I went to Yale, and it makes me feel extremely intelligent on a daily basis. But I would not have survived in any other of the classes. No cap. That's what the kids say these days. No cap. Because everybody there is so smart. Seriously, everybody there is way, way smarter than me. And it made my life way better when I just accepted that. Because like your first like year or two out of college and into pro, you kind of like hold on to that, like, yeah, I'm a Yale guy. You know what I mean? You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, there's people who kind of like hold on to that for a long time. Yeah. But I got to the point where I'm like, why am I leaning into this? I'm not, I'm not that guy. I'm just an idiot hockey player trying to make money doing this. And ever since then, my life's been way better. So but it allows me to play both sides of the coin a little bit. I can play the smart card and then also play the dummy card. So I like to be able to hold both in my pocket.
I can't decide what's more interesting. A professional athlete who went to Yale and wanted to and like studied and learned about nuclear weapons, or a professional athlete who went to Yale and is convinced that he's stupid. Because I
Honestly,
don't
like,
totally, I get, and I know that you said like you're not just saying it to be humble, but you went to Yale and didn't die, so you're at least kind of smart.
well, I always say this, and I'm an absolute expert at playing the game, and like I can play the life game with the best of them, and I can lie to a teacher with the best of them, and bullshit a teacher with the best of them. That's my superpower, and really lie with no shame, lies that aren't even believable or good. I can just say, hey, like, sorry. I remember one time in English class in high school, AP English, I was like, hey, like, I actually have an emergency at the house. My parents left the burner on, and I'm going to have to go turn it off. So I'll be able to turn in my paper tomorrow, but not today. Like, I actually did that, and I actually thought that she believed it at the time. Um, and so that's kind of what I'm good at. I'm not good at like studying or regurgitating information. Or my sister was actually like that. My sister was an amazing student, but I'm way better at playing the game than she is, and so that's what I really pride myself on.
You
Well,
ever play?
they don't call you Alex Truthin.
Wow,
So
that's
there
good.
you go.
I haven't heard
Thank you.
that. It's good.
I was watching a clip of you and you said I'd be lying if, and I was like, that interviewer should be like, well, you'd always be lying, unless
right.
of course you already get married and take the other person's name. Have you ever played Malarkey?
Never heard of it.
There's a
Like
game
Catan?
called Malarkey. I played it for the first time over the weekend. It made me want to fucking die, but I think that you would excel at it. It is a question is asked, and then cards are passed out to all the participants. One of the cards has the correct answer, and then the rest of them say bluff. So, for example, like the question is, what's the difference between robbery and burglary? And then you pass out a bunch of cards, and everyone goes around and they say, oh, the difference between it is whatever, when we all know the actual answer is contact. There needs to be physical contact made for it to be a robbery. But everybody else lies, and
We
you
all know
see,
that.
and you all vote on who you think is telling the truth. I played it over the weekend, and I kept getting the correct answer card, and none of my friends voted for me, and I came in dead fucking last, even though I was telling them the truth the whole time. It's because people like you who could be like, I know what these people want to hear right now. I'm going to say something that's going to be pleasing enough, and then this is how I win. That's why you're in the NHL and why I don't know, hoarding your jerseys.
That's 100% true. I honestly don't even think that I'm that good at goalie. I think that I'm just so good at playing the game that I've been able to BS my way into the NHL for like 10 years. And honestly, I might try and do like a class at Yale, like a free class, and say, hey, if you guys want to BS your way into being a pro athlete, it's actually way easier than you think. That's a pretty good idea.
I had a friend in high school who got amazing scores on all of his standardized tests, on his SATs. And I remember he said, he was like, oh, you know what the thing is? I don't even know the answers to these questions. I just like read the question and I know like what they want to hear, what like what they're looking for. And I'm like,
Wow.
then you know the fucking answer. Like what you're saying is you're like, I can't play goalie well. I just do what I think people want to see a goalie do, which is to stop the fucking puck, and you do it better than so many people. Like, you're good at it.
Yeah, I'm not good at goalie. I just outthink the puck and the other players on the ice.
Like they're actually like I am pretty good at goalie. I'll say that, but there is some truth to like preying on human nature, where it's like if a team has like 5 2-on-1s in one period, and they you know what I mean. You've seen this scenario before where they like pass into the defenseman's shin pads like 3 times in a row and try to make the pass, and then you're like they get another 2-on-1, and it's like if this guy passes the puck one more time and he doesn't get a shot on net, he is going to get absolutely shredded by his coach. Like that's actually such an important part of playing goalie, whereas you kind of have to play on the human nature of it a little bit. And I think that the older you get and the more experience you get, the more you like start to think about things like that. And it actually does make you quite a bit better at goalie. But like just like reading trends and like kind of preying on human nature is a pretty important part of it.
That's fascinating because like I would imagine that goaltending, a big part of that game is mental. So like for you, it seems like you think that you can like manipulate your way or outthink your way in a lot of different situations. Like how does that work in the crease? Like, can you gaslight yourself into being like, I'm the best?
I don't think it's gaslighting. I think it's real. So I'm not even going to say I'm gaslighting it. I just think that like so much of what happens out there is based on human nature and like just having somebody think that you're going to do one thing and then you do something like so subtly different. It's like when you see somebody slip it through the triangle and they like a guy breaks his ankles, you know what I'm saying? It's just because that guy was expecting one thing and then but it's like a chess match and every league is different. So like the AHL, there's a certain set of like standards kind of the game within the game. And then the NHL is like one move ahead. So like this is kind of the first time I realized this was when I was in Philly and it was my first training camp and we were doing a 2-on-1 drill and Claude Giroux was coming down. He was the guy who was being passed to and he opened up for a one-timer. He's a righty. I think he's a righty. Um, but like 2 times in a row, he just zipped it like short side, beat me. I didn't get there fast enough. And then the third time, he like opened up for one timer. I went across so hard, and then he just like stopped the puck and he flipped it in behind me. And it was embarrassing, whatever. All the fans like cheered because obviously we had fans there that day. And but then I realized I was like, this guy is just playing a chess match, and he's 4 steps ahead of me. And so that's when I started to think about things a little bit differently. And that's really all that, like, as long as you can skate well and handle the puck well to some degree, you can, if you just think about the game as like a chess match, it opens up a lot of things for you and it allows you to understand the game way better. You don't it's not necessarily about like moving your hands or like dangling guys. It's about like manipulating them in certain situations so that you can like slightly be 1 or 2 moves ahead of them and you're thinking just a little bit faster than they are.
With that mindset, though, and what you're talking about, I feel like it would be pretty easy to speed yourself up, no? Like to overthink.
Well, that's the danger is when things aren't working, they can go really bad really fast. So like you can be on a 2-3 game heater, so confident. And then once you start to doubt yourself, then the other guy is obviously in power in all of those situations. So it's really just a power game all the time. And you're just trying not to let the opposing shooter take the power. And if you do lose the power, then you have to like reestablish it in some capacity. But yeah, when you're not feeling it and not feeling confident, those are the times when like that's why you grind and practice. That's why you have amazing fundamentals because like everybody can feel it, whatever, 30-40% of the time. But it's those other 5 out of 10 times where your like fundamentals and your hard work has to carry you through. At least that's how it is for me. I'm sure for guys who are better than me, they probably can feel it like 9 out of 10 times and then have like 1 out of 10 bad games. But for me, like I always have to grind, and that's just my fate in this league. I'm not quite talented enough. I would love to know what it's like to be, like Hasek was the best version of this, where he could like manipulate guys into thinking they had an open net, and then they all of a sudden they don't. Like it wasn't random at all. It was like a chess match all the time.
If I were a goalie and I were ever struggling, I would have a one-word solution: poke check. I just poke check the shit out of it, and I would probably get destroyed and allow 1,000,000 goals. But I'd just be like, I'm getting that fucker. That puck's mine.
Yeah, you have to be so careful with the poke check though, because guys are smart enough. They know, like especially in practice, like if you get scored on 3 or 4 times and you're starting to get frustrated or pissed, they'll be waiting for the poke check. So you have to like deploy it at the perfect right time, or the fake poke check is also lethal because if you fake poke check and it works, that's just like the chess match. You're like a step ahead of them. Or you can have the poke check, fake poke check, and then actually throw a real poke check, and that's like 3D check.
I like
triple poke.
Yeah, I like the fake poke check. That's the slap pass of goaltending moves, I would say.
Great analogy. Yes,
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more.
You're a grinder who seems to have an appreciation for like the process and the strategy. That those types of guys seem to be the best coaches. Would you have an interest in coaching after you're done?
I definitely have come to the point in my life where I'm going to be in hockey for the rest of my life. I think I would like to do that. I mean, if the opportunity presents itself to me, obviously don't want to put the cart before the horse in that capacity, but I definitely don't want to coach. I don't think that I have the patience to coach. I'm not a really patient guy, but there's a million, like, obviously opportunities that you can be around hockey and be around in the game. Coaching to me is just like, the older you get, like, you see young guys and you want them to, like, understand what you understand, but you can't just outright tell them, you know, hey, this is what you have to do, because that's what makes a great coach. They present the information to the players in a way that they can understand and comprehend and then go out and apply. The great coaches aren't necessarily the ones who are like, my system's amazing, or they're just great at the human connection more so. And so I'm not really that good at that. That's not really my strong suit. But for sure, I would love to stay in hockey, and I do love the strategy of the game. And like I said, like, I'm obsessed with pretty much all things sports, in terms of, like, rosters and putting the right type of group together and how players fit together. So I don't know where that's going to lead me, but just kind of keeping my options open on the back end.
So if you like how like the construction of teams and like the actual like critical thinking, it's either general manager or podcaster. It's one of the two things.
It's funny you say
Welcome to
that.
the show, bud.
Everything just funnels now to, you're like, are you interested in this? Are you good at this? Are you good at this? You're not good at that? Okay, podcaster.
It's funny you say it, because it's actually just what crossed through my head. General manager, there's 100,000 people that want that job, and there's only 32 of them. So there has to be a lot of things that have to fall the right way for somebody to be a general manager. But yeah, I think it is kind of interesting now that you can just put your name out there on a YouTube channel and just put information out in the world. And there's a lot more people doing that very effectively. And so that's definitely crossed my mind. I think just in terms of, like, playing, that's got to be the main thing while it's the main thing. I believe in that. I don't like to have too many irons in the fire, but in 2026, it's pretty easy to get your message out there in a pretty inexpensive and effective way. So that is something that intrigues me for sure.
Last thing, how has the Lindy experience been, speaking of coaching? And like, Sean, our producer, has lost his mind at the idea that anybody else is being discussed for Jack Adams. I agree with that. I think it's got to be Lindy. But, I mean, what's he been like to play under? And what can you say about the job that he's done this season?
Yeah, he's done a great job. I mean, his connection to Buffalo hockey is ridiculous. I mean, I think that he got drafted by the Sabres in, I don't want to say, I think it was 1979. Is that, I don't know if that can be fact checked or not. I don't want to say that and then it actually be 1989 and me look like an idiot.
Yeah, it was 1998 actually. Even worse. It was he's only like he's 28 years old or whatever. Yeah.
I can't do the math that quickly in my head, but I saw that he's been part of the Buffalo organization for like 4 decades or 5 decades, maybe even now. So that's insane. And he is emblematic of what Buffalo hockey is. And he's been great. I mean, there's a reason that, he's been a head coach in this league for as long as he has. And he has a good feel and a good touch with the guys. So, just happy for him as well, and I'm sure that he was really wanted to turn this around when he came back last year, and so just happy. He's given me good opportunity here, so I'm appreciative for what he's done for me, and he's just good at, like, kind of, we're all in it together. That's kind of the mentality that he preaches, and so we try to execute that. And so it's been great. Again, when you're winning, everything is great, right? Like, when you're losing, everything stinks. So right now it's great, and just looking forward to the stretch run and hoping we can add a few more accomplishments to his resume.
Yeah, I mean, you got a little bit of work left this regular season, but do you feel like you have like a do you feel like you're bracing for what's to come in terms of Buffalo and that city and how they're going to greet you guys once the playoffs arrive? Because, I mean, it's been forever. That's an unbelievable sports city, and we're already starting to see kind of the city prepare itself for its first playoff run in a long time.
Yeah, I think that we're doing everything we can to fight it right now, to be honest with you. And we've got 9 games left, and it seems short, but it's also like that's an eighth of your season, and that's still a long time. And you just the second you think too far ahead playing in the NHL, it's death. And you start to think about what your game was like last week or 2 weeks ago, it's death. And I think that's kind of, one thing that we're trying to really establish here is we don't want to necessarily even think about this as if it's a crazy good sweet run. I think that the guys in the room, and especially the guys that are signed here long term, want to make this a habit and make this a standard to a degree. And so we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And obviously the city's going to be electric. It's already been incredible. And the reception that we've gotten from fans and the way that they've showed up in our building has been awesome. And so we're all really appreciative of that. But that being said, we got a game to win tomorrow. That's our mindset. We have to be extremely competitive. And then we'll take it from there. We got a practice day the next day, and we'll take that to the best of our ability. But I think that's kind of one thing that I've learned being on a few playoff teams and in the American League, been on a bunch of playoff games, is the teams that succeed the most are the ones that can stay in the moment. And they're not thinking about the result. They're just kind of focused on the process. And so that's what we're clinging on to right now.
Well, you guys have been an absolute blast to watch. As Pete said, if you have to skip Sabres content on our show, it's just oops all ad reads, because we can't stop watching and talking about you guys. It's been a blast to watch. You're having such a great season. Continued success, man. Really.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me, and look forward to tuning in a bit more here.
Awesome. Okay, and we're going to be, for better or worse, we're going to be in Buffalo for the playoffs. So hopefully we see absolute madness. Just like every game is going to be like what the Lightning game was. I think that's going to be your strat. Just Carrick, godsend. Just get out there and just do a bunch of wild shit. That's the plan.
Yeah, well, he's doing a great job so far. You might honestly be seeing chaos in the building and outside the building.
Nice.
So let's be. I'm rooting for all of those things. So yeah, thank you guys again, and it was great talking to you.
You're the best. Appreciate you, man. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to What Chaos here on YouTube. You will get everything: daily episodes, player interviews, and so much more. It's all here on the What Chaos YouTube. Hit subscribe.